Can you imagine going to the hospital when you're going to have your baby and expecting a pain free birth that you're going to just wake up from a nap and your baby's going to be there? What about just being handed formula and just assuming that that's what's best for your baby? Or only having really one option of the type of provider that you see? Well, in the 70s, this was very common. Women, they didn't know any different. There wasn't options out there like there is today. This is the first decade that I could see that they really started questioning things and about how everything was going and why it was going that way. Twilight sleep was very common in the early 1900s. It was first introduced in the United States in 1915. What twilight sleep is morphine and scopolamine would be injected to the mom. It would give temporary pain relief, and she would also forget about the whole experience. She wouldn't feel anything. She'd sleep right through it. And she'd wake up and her baby would be in the nursery. This is according to supportbirth.com. Some women, they loved this. They liked not feeling any pain, and it worked for them. But others, they weren't happy with it. They wanted to feel labor pains, hearing the baby's first cry, and they didn't like not having any control in what was going on with their bodies. This led a few women to create some birthing methods. Two of them that were familiar to me were Lamaze. It was made in 1970. And what Lamaze is, it's a birthing method. It teaches you relaxation and breathing techniques to help you get through labor. Also, the Bradley method was made in 1978. And what it is you have a birthing coach. At that time would have been your husband. And they helped you through labor. They get you what you need. They're your support system. If you need rubbed, help you through contraction, anything like that. And that was from WebMD.com. Breastfeeding rates in the early 1970s were not good. 25% of infants were breastfed at 1 week, and 14% were only breastfed at 2 to 3 months of age. A lot of this was due to improvements in formula in the 50s and 60s. Women believed that formula was best for their babies, that it had all the vital nutrients that they would need. At that point in time, there was local places that would make formula. At the beginning of the 70s, though, nearly all formula was ready-to-feed powdered formula. That's what they carried in the hospitals. Even with the improvements to the formula, though, breastfeeding rates still rose. By the end of the 70s, breastfeeding rates were 51% when mothers left the hospital and 21% at 3 to 6 months of age. And that's according to kellymom.com. The increase of breastfeeding is really hard to pinpoint exactly why it did increase because it was not being pushed by health professionals at all. It was a movement more among common people. So like I said, it's really hard to pinpoint, but even still to this day, this is true. There is a big push for breastfeeding compared to formula, except for now healthcare providers do help push that. At the beginning of the 1900s, the majority of people who birthed babies were women. But in the 1970s, only 9% were women. And the majority of babies were now born at the hospital compared to at home. So the old version of midwives was pretty much non-existent. A new group of midwives were created. It was called nurse midwives. And in 1970, the first programs for these were created. And the military, actually all three branches of the military, started employing nurse midwives. In 1971, the Farm and Santa Cruz Birthing Center, the farm's located in Nashville, Tennessee, and Santa Cruz Birthing Center is located in Santa Cruz, California. They were both opened up, and these were the first birthing centers in the country. And that is according to midwiferytoday.com. There had been studies done on criticism on medical management. It had showed that there was lingering effects, behavioral and motor effects on babies that were born with large doses of anesthesia, such as Demerol. And this only helped push the midwife movement and the natural childbirth because women didn't want their babies having these side effects. There was a study done in 1971. They placed midwives in rural hospitals that were medically needy. The premature birth rate dropped from 11% to 6.6%. The neonatal deaths dropped from 23.9 to 10.3%. The findings were only strengthened when the funding was cut and doctors were replaced instead of the midwives. Over the next 2 years, the premature birth rate rose from 6.6 to 9.8%, and the neonatal deaths, they rose from 10.3 to 12.1%, and this is according to neonatology.com. They looked through all the plausible options, and the only thing that they kept coming up with was that it had to be that the midwives were present. So it did show that the midwives being there had helped, and a lot of this contributed to they were more hands-on and they had a better patient compliance. It showed that they kept 95% of their appointments as to where the physicians only kept 80%. So in conclusion, in the 70s, they were full of all kinds of movements, from one thing to another. But a big thing was women. They wanted rights. They wanted control of their bodies. They wanted to know why things were going on. And they asked these questions, and they made changes to where that happened. Not only was it a culture change then, from women just doing what they were told, to women wanting to step out and have a say, but it still helps today what happened back then, because they kind of started a lot of the things that are still going on today with how women want to say in their births and what goes on. If y'all have any questions, just comment below and I'll answer. Thank you.